Theresa May has pleaded for confidentiality. Someone in Whitehall had a different idea. The leaker, it's assumed, didn't like where immigration policy post-Brexit might be going. The leaked Home Office document says from the moment of Brexit, during a transition period, there'd be immediate controls on new arrivals from the EU, blocking them from staying long if they hadn't got a job. There could be quotas for low-skilled workers, capping overall numbers. Companies wanting to recruit in the EU could be required to conduct an economic needs test to prove there aren't people in the local workforce they could recruit from. This is a draft white paper on immigration policy that Theresa May had hoped would actually have been published by now. But since her general election setback, some cabinet ministers have been pushing back on what they think is too hard-line an immigration policy. They worry that it means the EU won't give Britain the transitional arrangements it wants, more or less the status quo, and that this kind of immigration policy could harm the final trade deal with the EU.
The whole principle of the single market, which, lest we forget, was a British invention, it was Mrs. Thatcher who brought this in, it was based on the principle that trade isn't just about goods, it's about services, it's about capital, it's about people moving around, and you've got to treat this as a whole, and you can't just pick out one of the inconvenient bits and ignore all the others, and that's why really the government is in a kind of fantasy world, and they're not understanding the way in which the European Union has worked for decades and works today.
So a hardline immigration policy post-Brexit will encourage a less generous trade deal from Europe, you think?
I think there is a serious risk that that could happen.
There are people, some of them cabinet ministers, who think if you go down the route of this draft document, you won't get such a good deal from Europe in trade at the end of the day.
Well, I don't think they've ever been in a negotiation then if they think like that. The truth is, the European Union, funny enough, is way past where some of them may be. The European Union accepts that we're leaving. They've actually banked that already.
It'll let us have any immigration policy we like?
No, well, it doesn't. They've already assumed that we will have a migration policy which is about controlled borders. So I don't think, I've not met a European politician that says, we want you to keep freedom of movement. Their answer is, unless you sign up completely to freedom of movement, then you can't be, for those who want to be in the single market, you cannot be in the single market. So they've accepted that one of the things we're doing is putting control on our borders. Whether we put a little bit of control or a great deal of control makes no difference to them.
The Prime Minister at question time defended the idea of more controls on immigration and believes that was one of the central messages of the EU referendum vote.
We're already able to exercise controls in relation to those who come to this country from outside the countries within the European Union, and we continue to believe as a government that it's important to have net migration at sustainable levels. We believe that to be the tens of thousands, because of the impact particularly it has on people at the lower end of the income scale in depressing their wages.
Some voters today sounding closer to Theresa May's view of things than her critics.
Well, the controls should be in place now. You know, they should be stopping immigration into the country. They say there's enough in the country. Deal with what you've got here first. Give the jobs to the British and the people that are in the country anyway.
But I'm thinking, well, why are you sort of like making these youngsters from Poland and wherever coming in? Surely if you gave our kids a decent wage, would that make our kids, I might go for that, I might go for that.
Well, I feel that if they do stop all the low-skilled workers, there's not going to be enough people in our area to take over those jobs because, unfortunately, the young people don't want to be vegetable pickers or be egg collectors and things like that, so I just don't think it will work.
One EU minister visiting London said Theresa May would pay a heavy price for this kind of immigration policy. Does that look to you like quite a hard-line immigration policy that Britain is thinking of post-Brexit? And does it make a deal between the EU and Britain harder or easier?
The document is beyond an hard line. The document is totally unhelpful. I'm reassured on the fact that it has been presented as a draft. I'm reassured with the fact that some member of your government didn't even read the document. So it is not, to me, the official British government line.
But if a policy like that did come out from Britain, what would it do to the shape of the deal between Britain and Europe?
That wouldn't help at all.
Migration issues, which David Cameron struggled to get the EU to move on, yet again at the centre of this saga.
Well, over now to Gary in Westminster. Gary, does this document suggest Britain is a long way from where the EU wants it to be in these negotiations?
I think the key immediate concern in parts of government is the transition period. Ministers believe that is what will unlock progress in the wider talks. The transition period that the government is looking at is trying to get status quo in the single market and in the customs union. And as far as the European Union is concerned, that means status quo on freedom of movement. And you ask whether we're a long way from them. I think one of the lessons of the David Cameron renegotiation attempt is that you don't have to be a long way from freedom of movement for the European Union to turn around and say no. If you're 80, 90% of the way there, they still say no. They want 100% freedom of movement if you're having these other arrangements. Theresa May is incredibly uncomfortable with that. And she is very unrelaxed about the idea of getting to the point of Brexit and this transitional period and not being able to tell Britons, particularly those who voted leave, that there are any new controls in place. And that is about where we are at the moment, and it is a very big fight inside government.
Brexit non è ancora scattata dunque, ma già è pronto il piano del governo britannico per limitare l'immigrazione proprio dagli altri paesi europei, ovviamente Italia compresa. Questo documento del Ministero degli Interni è riservato, è finito ai giornali e preannuncia già dal marzo 2019 il ritorno ai permessi di lavoro, permessi temporanei fino a 5 anni per i lavoratori qualificati, fino al massimo a 2 anni per quelli non qualificati e poi restrizioni anche sui ricongiungimenti familiari. Insomma, misure pesanti, la fine fra 1 anno e mezzo della libera circolazione delle persone di cui hanno goduto in questi anni centinaia di migliaia di altri europei che sono venuti oltremanica, tra cui moltissimi italiani, soprattutto giovani. Ovviamente polemiche, il sindaco di Londra, Sadiq Khan, dice si vuole in questo modo strangolare l'economia della capitale, città cosmopolita. Di tutto questo ha chiesto conto proprio oggi pomeriggio, incontrando il ministro per Brexit, oltre che altri esponenti di governo, ha chiesto conto il nostro sottosegretario per gli affari europei Sandro Gozi. Sentiamo che cosa gli hanno detto in questa intervista e poi linea Roma.
Sono rimasto sorpreso perché nei miei incontri con vari membri di questo governo manco conoscevano il contenuto di quella bozza. I primi a opporsi a quell'approccio sono le imprese britanniche. Va nella direzione sbagliata e io spero che presto si prenda la direzione ufficiale giusta, molto diversa da quella a cui noi ovviamente siamo nettamente contrari.
Immigrazione per l'Italia vuol dire anche problema profughi e rifugiati. Oggi c'è la sentenza della Corte europea sui ricollocamenti.
Sì, c'è un giudice a Lussemburgo e quel giudice a Lussemburgo ha dato ragione all'Italia, ha dato ragione all'Europa, ha respinto il ricorso di Ungheria e Slovacchia perché la linea è molto chiara. Non puoi essere europeista quando devi ricevere ingenti fondi europei e nazionalista quando devi fare la tua parte per quanto riguarda i richiedenti asilo. Tutti i paesi devono fare la loro parte, la Corte di Giustizia è stata molto chiara e il governo italiano auspica che se continuano a rifiutarsi questi paesi debbano venire sanzionati e su questo stiamo lavorando con la Commissione europea.